Welcome to 6th grade math. That was your homework. Mini lab. You can use grid paper to model adding fractions such as 4/18 and 3/18. Step 1. On grid paper, draw a 3x6 rectangle. Since the grid has 18 squares, each square represents 1/18. As you can see, our grid has 3 rows and it has 6 columns. Step 2, shade 4 squares purple to represent 4/18. So we have 4 squares, and then shade 3 squares green to represent 3/18. So there's our 3. Step 3, 7 of the 18 squares are colored. So the sum of 4/18 and 3/18 is 7/18. 4/12 plus 3/12. Step 1, we're going to draw a 3x4 rectangle. Since the grid has 12 squares, each square represents 1/12. And we will shade 4 squares purple to represent 4/12. Then we'll shade 3 squares green to represent 3/12. And 7 of the 12 squares are colored. So the sum of 4/12 and 3/12 is 7/12. 1/6 plus 1/6. So if we draw a 2x3 grid, and we have 6 squares, so each square represents 1/6. So we will shade 1 square purple to represent 1/6, and we will shade 1 square green to represent 1/6. 2 of the 6 squares are colored, so 1/6 and 1/6 is 2/6, and that can be simplified to 1/3 because the greatest common factor of 2 and 6 is 2. 3/10 plus 5/10. We're going to draw a 2x5 rectangle, and since that grid has 10 squares, each square represents 1/10. So we'll shade 3 squares purple to represent 3/10, and we will shade 5 squares green to represent 5/10. 7 of the 10 squares are colored. 8 of the 10 squares are colored. So 3/10 plus 5/10 is 8/10, and because we have a common factor of 2, we can simplify 8 to 4 and 10 to 5. We get 4/5. What patterns do you notice with the numerators? The numerator in the sum is the sum of the numerators of the addends. And what patterns do you notice with the denominators? The denominator in the sum is the same as the denominator in the addends. And the addends are the two numbers, or fractions in this case, that we are adding together. Explain how you could find the sum 3/8 plus 1/8 without using grid paper. Add 3 plus 1 to get the numerator, and the denominator is 8. Using models, do the dimensions of the rectangle matter? If we have 1/6 plus 4/6 equals 5/6, and we have 1/6 plus 4/6 equals 5/6, what if we had 6 in a 2x3 grid instead? 1/6 plus 4/6 equals 5/6. Let's look at an example, as we just did. As you can see, the dimensions of the rectangle doesn't matter as long as it has the correct number of squares. It will not affect the answer. Scaffolding questions. How would you write the sum of 5/7 and 1/7 as a mathematical expression? The sum of 5/7 and 1/7. So the sum tells us that they're looking for addition. So 5/7 plus 1/7. How would you write the difference between 5/7 and 1/7 as a mathematical expression? The difference should tell us that it's subtraction. So 5/7 minus 1/7. How would you write 1/7 subtracted from 5/7 as a mathematical expression? Well, that tells us exactly what the operation is. And because 1/7 is subtracted from 5/7, it's going to be 5/7 minus 1/7. And how would you write 5/7 increased by 1/7 as a mathematical expression? And increased should be the clue there that that is addition, 5/7 plus 1/7. Like fractions are fractions with the same denominator. So everything we've seen so far in this lesson, the denominators are the same, so they're like. When you add or subtract like fractions, the denominator names the units being added or subtracted. 4/18 plus 3/18 equals 7/18. Add like fraction in words. To add fractions with the same denominators, we add the numerators and use the same denominator in the sum. For example, 2/5 plus 1/5 equals 3/5. 2/5 plus 1/5. And then in numbers, 2/5 plus 1/5 is the same as 2 plus 1 over 5 equals 3/5. Add like fractions, find the sum of 4/5 and 3/5. So if we add 4/5 plus 3/5, we're really going to add 4 plus 3 over 5, and that gives us 7/5. And the model shows us that we end up with an improper fraction because we end up with more than 5/5. So we have two rectangles of 5 squares each. And we don't like to leave things as improper fractions, so we're going to turn it into a mixed number of 1 and 2/5. 1 and 2/5. So we're going to add, and then we'll write in simplest form. Simplest form is the form of the fraction when the GCF of the numerator and the denominator is 1. So that just means we reduce it so that it can't be divided by anything other than 1. And example, 3/4. 3/4 can only be divided by 1 as a common factor. So our first example, 1/6 plus 5/6 is 1 plus 5 over 6, which is 6/6. 6/6 is an improper fraction. So a lot of times we forget that improper fraction is defined as any fraction that has a numerator that is equal to or greater than the denominator. And in this case, 6 is equal to 6. So 6 over 6 is going to become 1. 4/7 plus 6/7. I can tell right now that the answer is initially going to be an improper fraction because 4 plus 6 is going to be greater than 7. So we have 4 plus 6 over 7. And if we add the numerators together, we have 10/7. And now we need to turn that into a mixed number. So it's 1 and 3/7. C, 1/9 plus 5/9 equals 1 plus 5 over 9, or 6/9. But 6/9, we can't leave it there. We have a common factor of 3. And so we're going to divide 6 by 3 to get 2, and 9 by 3 to get 3. And now the greatest common factor of 2 and 3 is 1, so we can leave it there. And that's just the subtract like fractions. To subtract fractions with the same denominators. So just like adding like fractions, we're looking for fractions that have the same denominator. And we'll subtract the numerators and we'll use the same denominators in the difference. So for example, 3/5 minus 1/5 equals 2/5. So examples using a model, 3/5 minus 1/5. There's 3/5. and we'll take away 1/5, and that leaves 2/5. In numbers, 3/5 minus 1/5, we can put 3 minus 1 over 5, and then if we subtract the numerators, we get 2/5. So 7/8 minus 5/8, we can rewrite that as 7 minus 5 over 8. And if we subtract the numerators using a model, we have 7/8 minus 5/8. And notice that leaves 2. So we get 2/8. And 2/8 has 2 and 8 have a common factor of 2. So if we divide 2 by 2, we get 1. 8 by 2, we get 4. And the simplified answer is 1/4. And check your progress. And we're going to leave in simplest form. And if we have 5/9 minus 2/9, we'll put 5 minus 2 over 9. And if we subtract that, we get 3/9. And hopefully you see that 3 and 9 have a common factor of 3. So we can divide 3 by 3 and 9 by 3, and we'll get 1/3. 11/12 minus 5/12. So we'll rewrite that as 11 minus 5 over 12. If we subtract the numerators, we get 6/12. And there is a common factor of 6. So if we divide 6 by 6, we get 1. And 12 by 6, we get 2. So our simplified answer is 1/2. And F, we have 7/10 minus 3/10. So we'll rewrite that as 7 minus 3 over 10. If we take the difference of the numerators, we get 4/10. We have a common factor of 2. So if we divide 4 by 2 and 10 by 2, we get 2/5. Real world example. Population. About 6/100ths of the population of the United States lives in Florida. Another 4/100ths lives in Ohio. How much more of the population lives in Florida than in Ohio? So the first question we have to ask ourselves is, what operation are they asking us to do? And the how much more should tell us that it is subtraction. So we're going to take Florida's population of 6/100ths and subtract Ohio's of 4/100ths. And if we subtract the numerators, 6 minus 4, and put it over the denominator of 100, we will get 2/100ths, which we can simplify with the greatest common factor of 2. So if we divide 2 by 2, we get 1. And 100 by 2, we get 50. So our answer is Florida's population is 1/50th more than Ohio's. And Ohio is the 7th largest state in the United States and ranked by population. In 2019, its estimated population was 11.7 million people. Juice. 2/5 quart of pineapple juice was added to a bowl containing 3/5 quart of orange juice. How many total quarts of pineapple juice and orange juice are in the bowl? So the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, what operation do they want us to do? And the key words here are how many total. So we're going to do addition here, and it's going to be 2/5 plus 3/5. And if we add the numerators, 2 plus 3, and put that over the denominator 5, we'll get 5/5. And once again, 5/5 is an improper fraction, so we are going to divide by the common factor of 5. We get 1/1, which is 1. So there's 1 quart of juice in the bowl. Additional questions. The sum of 3/10 and 9/10. 3/10 plus 9/10 can be rewritten as 3 plus 9 over 10, which is 12 over 10. And we end up with 1 and 2/10. But we need to simplify that even more by dividing the common factor of 2, and we get 1 and 1/5. Find 10/12 minus 1/12. So if we subtract 1/12 from 10/12, we could do 10 minus 1 over 12, which is 9/12. And 9 and 12 have a common factor of 3. So if we divide 9 by 3, we get 3, and 12 by 3, we get 4. So our answer is 3/4. Swimming. During swimming practice at the lap pool, Darcy swam 21/25 of a mile, and Renee swam 16/25 of a mile. How much farther did Darcy swim than Renee? So the question is, what operation are we doing? And the key word is farther, or how much farther. So that's going to tell us that we need to look at doing subtraction. And we'll subtract the 16/25 from the 21/25. And if we just rewrite that, 21 minus 16 over 25, we'll get 5/25. And we have a common factor of 5, so we can divide 5 by 5 and get 1. 25 by 5 and get 5, and we get 1/5. There's your homework. Head on over to Google Classroom to complete it. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in class. Thank you.